Hi, and welcome to Group Chat, a podcast brought to you by Projective Group. My name is Pieter, and in this podcast series, we invite people from our organization to tell their stories, delve into their experiences, and share their knowledge. Today, I'm joined by Lucas Reitsema, who's currently leading Projective Group Talent in Belgium. Welcome, Lucas.
Thank you very much.
Lucas, today we're going to talk a bit about emerging talent or people in the early stages of their career and how they can excel and how we help them excel. But before we dive into all of that, tell us a bit about yourself. What should our audience know about you?
Thank you. So my name is Lucas Reitsema. I'm 41, living in Belgium now for 9 years. Originally, I'm from Holland. I used to work for Rabobank. I was there for 12 years. That's also the reason why I came to Belgium. I went from the Rabobank counter, helping people to get money out of the ATM, towards CEO of Belgium. Sounds tough, but it's a small bank. So let's say operations manager. And for the last 7 years, I'm working for Projective Group, mainly with people who are just getting graduated from their university.
Yeah, so that's quite a steps from the counter to being a country CEO or an operations manager, depending on how you want to call it. Today we're going to talk about excelling in the early stages of your career, and there's a lot of graduates or emerging professionals who come into or who leave university or school, step into their careers, and sometimes often find themselves a bit lost. Why is this topic? Why you're so passionate about this topic? How come that you're the man who's leading this in Belgium?
I think it's a really interesting topic because you have a different view on the world from every different generation, and the generation is also quite different. If you could take a look at the generation who are now graduating from university, they have a totally different look on work-life balance, like I had when I graduated. They also have a totally different view on work-life balance than the companies we work with. These kind of conversations are really interesting. And also the step from university to starting your first job, it's a big step. And it would be nice to get some support there. And we see that works, and that gives us a lot of energy.
Yeah. You also got that support in your career?
Yes. So I think I had quite some good mentors. I still have. And it's key, because you can get lost quite easily by yourself. And sometimes it's good that people push you out of your own context or your own personal view. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you're basically returning the favor now.
Yeah, and I think you should. So I also said to my mentors, which I worked with the last 15 years, how to return the favor, and that's the answer. Also support other people. That's the best way to return that favor, indeed.
Yeah. I mentioned it in the beginning, as sometimes people find themselves a bit lost in those early career phases, just starting out. What are the general kind of challenges, recurring challenges that we see for these talents? What challenges do they face?
I think, like we already mentioned before, so the move from university towards working is quite big. So what do we do within Belgium, but also in other countries? We look for companies with a similar attitude towards young talented people. Because what I think is really important is that you find a match with the culture of the company where you work with your own values. If that's not the case, it's going to be quite hard to work there. And you also feel a bit forced to not be yourself. And we truly believe in being yourself. So I think one of the difficulties for talented people who are just getting graduated, how do you choose that company? So if you are in a city and you see a big company building, how do you know what the culture is inside? We do know. So we know these companies for more than 10 years, and we support them in making that fit. I think that's one of the most important ones.
Yeah.
The second thing is you have a belief. As soon as you graduated from university, you want to learn something. Big expectations, or maybe you're a bit shy. Both could be the case. But then you also have the expectations of the company you're going to work for. How do you create honest discussions about that? How do you make your expectations clear? That's extremely important.
Yeah, it's about aligning expectations.
And be honest about that. So what we also tell to our clients, don't create a super story, and in the end they have to do something totally different. Be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And if you make that combination about being honest about the role and the strong culture fits, it's the perfect match.
Yeah, you mentioned that finding out what the culture of a company is super important. Graduating or choosing such a company, we obviously know our clients, so we can tell the story to people that join us. But let's say that people don't know that we exist. How do they find out what the company culture is? How can they? Because you mentioned that the fit is quite important. How do they find out? What should they do?
Yeah, important question. So I can imagine if you graduated from university and you start looking for that first job, you're gonna look on job titles. You're going to look in all these vacancies, and most of the time it's a lot of information. You've got no clue maybe what it means. I think that's not the way to go. It's actually quite easy, for example, online or if you visit events, to get some kind of feeling about the strategy and the values of a company. I would dive into that. So also with people around me in my personal life, I always tell them, don't focus on a job, but focus on a culture and the values of a company where you want to be part of. Do you believe what they're trying to build, and do you want to be part of that story? So my main tip there would be try to find out if that organization fits you based on values. If you fit someone where you would definitely find your role within that company. So I would do it the other way around.
Yeah, and so it's more just to repeat what you say. It's more about the company rather than the role, or the place you're in rather than what you will be doing.
Yeah, because if you look at the totally different industries, it's different to work at a bank than working for a government organization. And still then there are differences between organizations and different industries. So I think it's really important to dive into that, and then the rest will follow.
Yeah. How do people do that? Do they find out if they might approach someone who works there? Can they find information online? How can they start with finding that out?
I think all. So I truly believe to start with that quite early. Don't wait till you get graduated or do it at the end of your university period in June. Start now. So imagine that you're graduating in June this year. You should already start looking. So you should be aware of, which companies are around me? Which do I think are interesting? Which values do they have? And there's also a lot of events. For example, if I look at Projective Group, we have around 50 events every year where we visit universities or host get-togethers. That's another one. But I think the third one, which you already mentioned yourself, get in contact with the people who work there and ask them, why do you work there? And look them in the eyes.
Or what is it like?
And then see if you get an honest story. And if you're an honest story which has an impact on you, a positive one, of course, then you should dive into it.
All right. Let's talk skills. I've read numerous blogs online that says these are the top 5, top 10 skills for young professionals. This is what you should invest in. What's your answer? What should people try to learn or try to do better or invest in the early stages of their career?
So I think for that topic, times have changed. So it's quite easy now to learn online and learn a lot for yourself. And I think the current generation is also used to watching videos and learn a lot by themselves. But there are also a lot of things you cannot learn from a video and definitely not from a book. So where we invest in a lot is interaction with people. So for example, stakeholder management, giving feedback. How do you give a presentation? It's a skill you should learn. And it's important to do it in your own way.
Yeah.
So working on these things, I think, is really important.
Yeah. How do we as Projective Group Talent help emerging professionals with that?
Yeah. So if people will start at us and we try to find them an organization which fits, more on the Projective Group Talent side, they start within a 2-year program. And the 2-year program, they get a certified coach, experienced people, because coaching is a skill. But also they get into a training program. And we create a mix between soft skills and hard skills. But what's even more important, we thought about, how do we get these trainings across in the upcoming 2 years? Because I think a lot of companies make the mistake to give a lot of theoretically training at the beginning of a traineeship. But then it's not relevant for these people. So how should they remember when it's becoming relevant within their job?
It's about learning the skill when you need it.
Yeah,
basically.
and also be able to process it in your head. If it goes way too quickly, you will never understand it well enough. So how do you create that good mix between soft and hard skills? But I think people should definitely focus on how do I come across, how do I make an interaction with people? Because a lot of technical things are happening in the world, and there's a lot of innovation, but we should still be able to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So how do you increase on that part? How do you grow on that part?
Yeah. So you're basically saying that a lot of the we often call them hard skills can change quite rapidly, or the need for those skills can change quite rapidly, while having good interactions, being able to give a presentation, being able to align opinions or get the right opinions out of a group of people is crucial.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. What I didn't heard in that list is networking. You often hear or read that it's crucial to be a very good networker. All of the introverts listening to this are probably going to think, help me now. Yeah. How come that you didn't mention that, or is that still relevant, or how should we look at that?
So first of all, it's perfectly fine to be an introvert. We need all kind of different people in the world. But I think it's also depending a bit on your role. So for example, if you're quite a commercial role, it's key. It's part of your job description to have a network. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think it's really important to get out of your cocoon. So imagine that you find that perfect company where you work for, you have an amazing team. It's still good to talk to people outside of that cocoon. Yep. How do you meet people from different companies? Do you go to networking? Because it's depending on you. So for me, it's not a must because you choose it for yourself. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely a helper in your career.
Yeah. You mentioned in the very beginning that you had several mentors, people who took you under their wing when you were in those early stages of your career. What role does this play, or even coaching? What role does coaching play, or what impact can it have in those early career phases?
Yeah, so I think coaching is extremely key. So as mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, it's quite a big step, moving from your university to the real world. You learned a lot. Okay, but now you really have to do it. It's for real now. So there's also some expectations. So a coach could definitely help you to pull you out of that perspective or the cocoon we just mentioned and say, okay, this is the situation you're in. How could you handle that differently? And what's really interesting with coaching, you have people who are really coachable and they learn quite quickly. And you also have people who say, I don't need a coach. And in most cases, I've seen that for the last 20 years, these people need to coach the hardest.
Yeah, the most.
And if you if you create some kind of hook with them to also give them the different perspective on their first beliefs, the impact is massive. So coaching is a really key under the part of Projective Group Talent. And also our clients are aware that that's a skill, which most of the time they're doing on the side. Mm-hmm. But we believe that's a hard skill you should invest in.
Yeah, it's more of our core business.
You cannot do that on the side.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I look at, because I also had the luck to been coach and to have a coach, and what you mentioned is right. Oftentimes it's people who hold a mirror in front of you, or even kicking open doors. Most of the insights that I got coming out of those sessions were not that. I mean, you shouldn't. I wasn't and didn't need to look far for them. But it's because it's coming from someone external. For some reason, it clicks way more than finding it out yourself. So you can definitely, at least when I speak for myself, win some time.
And also make it factual. So I had a colleague telling me, okay, you make these 4 comments. Sometimes I'm on the stage as well. And this was the impact of these comments on me. And was blown away because these were my words. I could not run away from those comments. And sometimes that really helps because otherwise you get maybe a bit stuck in your own head.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well-being is also a very important topic nowadays. What strategies can you recommend to ensure overall well-being at work, but even in general for those young people just starting out?
Yeah, so I think the pressure is quite heavily at the moment. So there's a lot of push towards young people. There's a lot of interaction, Instagram, all these apps, and the world is going really crazy fast. And also there's quite some pressure in the world now. There's a lot of conflicts. So I think it's not easy for people at the moment. And also the whole COVID period, it was crazy. Imagine that you graduated in the COVID period.
Yeah.
So what we see happening there, it's really important to check expectations. So sometimes I see people fighting really hard without knowing if it's meeting expectations. So I don't say that you have to be, you have to follow all the expectations of the people you're working with, but it is important to know, because otherwise you could be working really hard without getting that recognition, or the other way around. It's really hard for people to help you because there's no alignment on, okay, what are we trying to do together?
Yeah.
So my main tip here would be for young people, fight for your own beliefs and fight for what you want to learn, but also check your expectations once in a while.
Yeah.
How do we do that in Projective Group Talent? We use our coaches for that. So every time people start a new assignment at one of our talent partners, we have that expectation meeting and make it crystal clear. What's the role now? And what do we think we can evolve in the upcoming 2 years?
Yeah.
Creates a lot of rest if you get that clear on all parties.
Yeah, that's a good one. If maybe to wrap this up more, if you have one piece of advice, or can be several pieces of advice, go ahead. For people who are on the verge of graduating or still in the first 2, 3, 4 years of their careers, what would it be? How can they get ahead, be more happy, find more rest? What should they do differently? What's your advice?
I think the main one is be yourself, but check expectations.
Yeah.
So there will be some pressure, and there's always some pressure, and you always have a view, okay, am I doing the right thing? It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert, but you do need to stay yourself, because then you're the most powerful. And if you're at a place where you cannot be yourself, move. But what's really important is no job is fully fun. There's always some things you need to do also in your job and my job. Yeah. So it's also hanging on and being aware that the first years of your career, you have to fight a bit. But then make sure you fight within an organization where you can be yourself.
Yeah, all right. That's great advice. So thank you very much, Lucas. In addition to you, Lucas, I also want to thank all of you for listening and or watching up until now. If you found this interesting, don't hesitate to subscribe to our channels or share this episode with people who might find it relevant as well. If you would like to learn more about Projective Group and how we guide talented people, you can find all the necessary information in the description. Until next time, bye-bye.